What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about why I think privacy coins will be the most valuable cryptocurrencies in the future. So we're going to kind of touch on a couple of privacy coins here in a second. We're going to touch on why I'm even talking about this topic and a couple of things about the dark net or the dark web. So without further ado, let's get into it. So just to start off with the reason why I'm making this video, the other day I did a little tweet over here and I said privacy coins will be extremely valuable. This came from me just having a conversation with one of my friends, Harshal, shouts out to you, brother, and just kind of seeing what was going on with the entire space of privacy coins, right? You have exchanges like Bittrex delisting them, and a bunch of other ones, of course, delisting them. And it seems like everything that has a government pause on them, essentially, they're kind of doing away with anything privacy related. So to me, that tells me, okay, now is when we got to start looking at this stuff, right? So I go ahead and tweet out this thing, and as you can see, it blew up, for me at least. I mean, I have about 400 followers on Twitter, so 166 likes was definitely out of nowhere. I also followed it up with, I might start accumulating some Zcash. So I said this because I'm most familiar with the, with the form of privacy of ZK Snarks. And a couple of people are tweeting at me, yeah, you should look into Monero, you should look into Pirate Chain, a bunch of these other different privacy coins. And I said, yeah, of course. I mean, like, just because you have one privacy coin doesn't mean you can't have another, right? So, and not to get too much into the privacy coins that I'm getting, I'm actually going to talk more about the ones that I'm buying later on. I did kind of want to get into why we need privacy coins just in general. So we already have all these different blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, that have public blockchains where you can see what the balance is for each address and you can see what the address is. Technically, however, you still can't link it to a person, right? You can't just look at an address and say, okay, this belongs to said person. So to me, privacy coins is pretty obvious, right? Nowadays we have increased surveillance going on, and we're actually going to take a look at that soon. But to me, increased surveillance, number one, is just a great reason to have privacy coins, right? And when I say privacy coins, I'm really talking about private blockchains with private transactions, like pretty much almost everything private, right? Obviously, there are some kinks that come with that, but I think it'll be very valuable in the future because at the end of the day, I don't think that someone, or let's say the government, whomever, should know exactly how much money you have. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's almost like that's an invasion of privacy to me. You should have the right to, store your own crypto the way you like it, whether you want people to know about it or whether you don't. That's what I think, right? The government may say otherwise. So increased surveillance is number one. So we're in a world where where everything is spied upon, you can keep something to yourself. And the second reason, and this is just my opinion, and again, you guys can leave your opinions down below on why we need privacy coins, but I feel like it's a way of rebellion. Now, I know that sounds very extreme, but I don't really mean rebellion like, storming the Capitol and all that stuff. I really mean rebellion in the sense of, again, like taking back what is yours, right? I mean, you shouldn't, okay, at the end of the day, the government works for the people. We don't work for the government. I think that should be made clear, right? So to me, the people at the end of the day have the right to set the precedent on what is right and what is wrong, not the government. Although that's what it seems like, they're the ones setting the laws, going through the checks and balances and all that stuff. The people have the ultimate say at the end of the day. If, like, take a prohibition, for example, right? When they tried to ban alcohol, at that point, no one agreed with it, and it was pretty clear, so they had to reverse it, right? I mean, I don't remember the entire whole thing about that, but the point is that the people didn't agree, and the government backtracked. So, at the end of the day, if we set the precedent where we should be allowed to have certain cryptos within our possession without anyone knowing, then that's the way it'll be, at the end of the day. Obviously, some rebellion may come with that, but it is what it is. Now, what I did want to get into is Chainalysis. Now, there are companies like Chainalysis, and I think there's something called Elliptical as well that does it, but they're essentially looking to shed light on the dark corners of the blockchain, right? And I can kind of go ahead and read what they do. Quote, we provide data, software, services, and research to government agencies, exchanges, financial institutions, and insurance and cybersecurity companies in over 50 countries. Our data platform powers investigation, compliance, and risk management tools that have been used to solve some of the world's most high-profile cyber criminal cases and grow consumer access to cryptocurrency safely. They essentially look into the world of cryptocurrencies and see how they affect the outside world. So, most notably, what they've done recently is kind of look at privacy coins such as Monero and Zcash and really see, how private are they, pretty much trying to track the transactions within those blockchains. So as you can see here, there's this article that's saying Chainalysis can now track your privacy coins, Zcash and Dash. Now, although it is a little bit misleading to a certain extent, pretty much what they're saying here is that even though the obfuscation on Zcash is stronger due to the ZK snark encryption, one that I talk about all the time, Chainalysis can still provide the transaction value and at least one address for over 99% of Zcash activity. So it kind of disproves the whole purpose of using Zcash in the first place. And their blockchain isn't inherently private, so technically, you have most users just using the basic, essentially, run-of-the-mill, blockchain where they're sending Zcash back and forth. However, they're not using the privacy-enhancing features that makes Zcash private. So the more you use Zcash, the more people that use the privacy-enhancing feature, the better it is for the ecosystem because you're shielding more and more transactions with more and more addresses. So they get jumbled together, and it's more of like a way of anonymity. You know what I'm saying? Privacy to a certain extent, but it really anonymizes the addresses, the amounts that are being sent, because they're kind of being mixed together. So at the current stage of the game, Zcash doesn't seem to be the most private, I will say. That's why I wanted to look at Monero, XMR, because specifically, they seem to be as far as I'm concerned, the only privacy blockchain that's really been put to the test by these huge authorities, and at the same time has been able to kind of pass it for the most part. This actually caught my eye, and this is the kind of stuff I like to see. As you can see, the IRS steps in. The motivation for decoding XMR became more interesting on September 11th, which was last year. However, when the governing tax authority of the U.S., the IRS, publicized its search for anyone capable of breaking Monero's transaction hiding technology, offering $625,000 as a reward for such intel. So essentially, they're pretty much offering that money for anyone who can crack Monero's privacy. Like, those are the kind of tests that privacy coins need, so they can prove that they actually work, right? At least in a much larger scalable environment. So that's why I'm more looking into Monero and XMR to get some of those little coins. But kind of with those two out the way, obviously I know there are a whole bunch of other different crypto coins and whatnot out there. Like, I know I was looking at Grin, actually. They use Mimblewimble, which is like another type of privacy, and they seem to be a little bit more on the ground in terms of decentralized and more to that whole crypto ethos. But I really wanted to talk about the darknet here. So although I'm pulling this picture from my iCloud, this is actually some charts that I'll be showing you from Chainalysis. They report on pretty much anything related to the darknet that they did. I think it was at the end of this year for 2020 and prior. So just looking at this first chart, you can see that this is essentially the darknet market revenue versus the total transfers to the darknet markets. So as you can see, the actual bars are just how much money the darknet has been making, and this is the line going up is going to be the number of transfers sent to the darknet markets. So as you can see, it's only been increasing. I mean, obviously, right? The internet is getting bigger and bigger. Everything is going online, especially with the advent of COVID and all that stuff. But it's funny, you see how most of the transfers have been actually occurred back in 2019, and you'll actually see for the reason why. We're going to touch on that pretty quickly. But still, the darknet market revenue has only been going up. It was about, let's see, what is that? That's about 1.5 billion right around in 2019, and about 1.7 billion over here in 2020. So it's only going up. And as you can see, 2019 was actually a lot higher than 2018. 2018 was about $0.75 billion sent to the darknet market, and about almost double that in 2019, which is pretty crazy. And something I want you guys to notice here is that these currencies they're only including Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and USDT. So notice they don't use Monero or any of those other privacy coins, right? I mean, although I do know for a fact that people in the darknet do use XMR and Monero, I assume that they don't include Monero there because they can't track it yet. Now, looking at this next chart over here, we have the all darknet markets by share of total market size over time. This is essentially, so in the darknet, there are different types of markets that you can pretty much go ahead and buy stuff from. That stuff can be whatever you can imagine people buying the dark web. I'm not sure, but it is what it is, drugs and all that shit. But the biggest one by far is the Hydra marketplace. This is actually, like I said, biggest one. We're going to take a look at what Hydra is in a second, but you'll see that it's essentially like dominating everything. It looks like it has about 75% of the total market share as of 2020. This is back in the day. It looks like Alphabet was much bigger, but for the most part, most transactions are being taken place on Hydra, which also happens to be a Russian-based, darknet market. And although Hydra is more Russian-based and more Eastern Europe, Hydra could eventually come to the English-speaking world as well. In December 2019, Hydra announced plans to raise $146 million in an ICO for a new global DNM service called Eternos. DNM, of course, is a darknet market. While it appears COVID put this plan on hold, the announcement suggests that Hydra plans to expand. That could create a significant challenge for the U.S. and European law enforcement, as Hydra has developed uniquely sophisticated operations, such as an Uber-like system for assigning drug deliveries to anonymous couriers, who drop off their packages in and out of the way, yet in hidden public locations, commonly referred to as drops, which are then shared with the buyers. That way, no physical exchange is made, and unlike with traditional darknet markets, vendors don't need to risk using the postal system. Which, this is nuts. I mean, they're essentially saying that these guys are able to facilitate darknet transactions, say, for example, drugs, by just, much like an Uber transaction, you order your food, or in this case, you order your drugs, you give them a location to drop it off at, they drop it off, and then you kind of just ride by, pick the bag up, and leave. That's nuts. But what they're saying here, and this should be scary for, honestly, people in the U.S. as well, right? Because not only are they going to be apparently expanding over here to the U.S., and yeah, transactions like that might start happening, maybe in your town or city or whatever. I'm more concerned with the extent that the law is willing to go to stop these guys and how far they're willing to impede our rights as regular citizens. This is why I'm saying that privacy coins will be very, very valuable, because although it doesn't seem like it yet, we're going to start to need these different privacy cryptocurrencies. As mainstream cryptos get adopted, almost everything is going to be tracked. Everything. And I know at some point, I'm not sure if they're still planning on doing it, but the government was trying to attach people's names to certain Bitcoin addresses or Ethereum addresses or whatever. Obviously, we all know that we can just make another address and use that one. But the fact that they're even trying to do that and overstep those boundaries should put you in a place where it's like, yo, you know what? Let me get ahead of the curb and just anonymize my shit as much as possible, and again, I'm not promoting this stuff at all, by the way, the darknet shit. This is just stuff that I'm kind of reading off to y'all. And to me, it's like, it's throwing off sirens in my head. It's like, yo, like, this stuff is happening, although I have nothing to do with it. I want to make sure I'm safe for when the government does involve me or Hydra involves me, Next thing I kind of wanted to look at was the value of Bitcoin sent to darknet markets on a 7-day moving average. So as you can see, this kind of dates back to the kind of late 2019, and pretty much the amount of Bitcoin that has been sent has been steadily dropping. And in this case, this orange thing is actually the Bitcoin price, and this only, I guess, matches up to March of last year, which also happened to be the dip, like the huge dip for Bitcoin, as you can see. But you'll see that the darknet markets really stopped sending it. Actually, it looks like really near the the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And to be honest with you, it's not surprising, right? Bitcoin isn't technically private, right? In Bitcoin, although it is anonymous in a sense that you don't have your name tied to the address, it's not private by any means. Like, again, they're having scenarios where the government has been able to track people. As far as I'm concerned, I could have sworn I remember seeing this. Been able to track people just based on based on where they made their Bitcoin address, where they were sending it, how you access the internet, how you are able to connect to the blockchain. It's a whole bunch of different shit that they're able to do. So to me, that's why, again, I'm not trying to tell people in the darknet to use Monero, but that's what it looks like. But to me, this just shows you that people are getting hip to the actual shit being sent, right? And again, this is only including Bitcoin, as you can see, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, USDT. So it's probably including all of those different currencies. And mind you, USDT is Ethereum based, so they're technically using Ethereum here as well. But just to read this little note down here, notable in our findings was that up until this point, darknet market activity appeared to be impervious to Bitcoin market activity. Fluctuations in Bitcoin price, which have always been common, rarely appeared to play a role in the darknet market consumers' purchasing activity. However, when Bitcoin's price began to fall in mid-March, following the first round of U.S. lockdowns, so too did darknet market activity. So this could be just straight up due to COVID happening, because they do mention in this article as well, or this blog, I guess you could say, that a lot of the darknet actually stopped, I don't want to say a lot of it, but a good amount of the darknet stopped any activity because of COVID. I don't know how that really affects the darknet too much, but, it is what it is. I guess COVID affected everyone, Next, we have the top 20 services by value sent to Eastern Europe. As you can see, we have Binance, Wobi, Bitfinex, all these different things. And this is just saying like how much value of crypto in terms of drugs or fraud and all that shit has been sent to Eastern Europe in this case. I think they're really talking about Russia here. But 1.2 billion is sent from Hydra to Eastern Europe, which represents 100% of all funds sent by Hydra. So as you can see, Hydra's sending a lot of money, man. These guys are no joke. They're bigger than when I say bigger, they send more value than Kraken, OKEx, Poloniex, Bittrex, all these different exchanges. Obviously, Binance is one of the biggest ones, but these are just different ways in how these different in this case, Hydra is the only scheme, but these different exchanges actually send value to these different countries. Again, in this case, Eastern Europe, and this is actually including a lot of different cryptos here. Although I don't think any of these are privacy-related coins. So mind you, these charts are only based off the coins that aren't privacy, that aren't private by nature, right? Technically, like they're not including Zcash, not including Monero, they're not including any of those different coins. So I can only imagine how much more money is being sent with these different coins. You know what I'm saying? And then we have this one, and this is crazy. I can't believe I kind of stumbled upon this. Decentralization is the next step for darknet markets. Even the darknet knows that decentralization is the way, bruh. When is regular society going to catch up? Despite 2020's difficulties, a new decentralized model embodied by platforms like Televind may solve many of these problems for darknet markets. Televind is a Telegram-based platform with over 150,000 users, where darknet market vendors can sell drugs through automated chatbots whose communications with buyers are highly encrypted. Again, Telegram is encrypted. Buyers simply access Televind's Telegram group, where they find a directory of drug vendors broken down by region and products on offer. From there, they simply place orders with their chosen vendor's chatbot, receive an automatically generated Bitcoin address to which they send payment, and wait for the drugs to arrive in the mail. This shit is as easy as Amazon. Holy shit. This is crazy. And I wanted to bring this up because you're seeing how all these different entities are kind of getting hip to what's going on in the real world, adapting. To a certain extent, although all this is illegal, it's good business. Like, they know what their consumers want, so they're matching up with it, bruh. Apparently, they're making it easy as hell. So, again, I wanted to bring that up because, to me, as the easier that these guys, these people in the darknet make it for them to essentially deliver drugs, deliver other services, whether it be fucking hitman or all that other shit, the easier they make it, the harder the government's going to be on the people. It's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds ridiculous to a certain extent, but we've seen it time and time again. Obviously, I wasn't technically conscious for it, I guess you could say, but like when 9/11 happened, as far as I'm concerned, you can ask any boomer or ask your parents if they've been around. Literally, like, everything changed after that happened. Like this event that is relatively a dot in the that is relatively a speck in all that has happened throughout humanity. People dying, people getting fucking killed by terrorists. Everything changed because of it. Privacy has been up through the roof since it happened. And to be frank, I wouldn't know what it would feel like even before that, because again, I didn't, I had no conscience as far as I'm concerned before that. So they're not afraid to impede your rights based on their assumptions. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was the total cryptocurrency value received by scammers versus total number of transfers to scammers. So this is a very interesting one. This is actually, I tweeted out on Twitter as well. As you can see here, we have the total number of transfers received by scammers, which is going to be that this line, going up like this. This is, again, just saying, how many transfers of crypto the scammers received, like how many people transferred crypto to them. And this, these bars going up is just going to be how much actual money those scammers received, in this case, value. So 2019 was out of the roof, obviously, like we can clearly see that. And that's because of the Ponzi scheme plus token. I think plus token and OneCoin. Was OneCoin one of them? Yeah, so it was because of those two, or one of those two Ponzi schemes that occurred in 2019. It's quite through the roof. I think it says here, what is it? They said that that was about about like $8.5 billion worth of crypto was sent, and about total number of transfers was right around 5 million. So about 5 million people sent money to these Ponzi schemes, to anything related to scamming, and about $9 billion worth of dollars is what they received. However, in 2020, obviously it went down a lot, right? It went down from $9 billion worth of scammers receiving money. They only received around 2.5 billion in 2020. And as you can see, the number of transfers went up a shit ton, right? And mind you, this is when this. I mean, let's put everything into perspective, right? A lot more people got into crypto in 2020. A lot more are getting into it in 2021. So naturally, if we assume that it's a linear progression, that the more people come into crypto, the same amount of scammers are coming in, then yeah, you could say that makes sense. But look at the numbers, right? We have so many more people. We have right around 7 million people sending money to these scams, but we have a third of the actual value being received. So although these people aren't sending a lot of money, which is great, thank God, maybe they're kind of getting that ethos of, don't spend what you can't afford to lose. There's still a lot more people sending it. You know what I'm saying? So I found this very, very interesting. And I hope to see this chart go down. I would like to see the total value received go down, because mind you, if scammers, if scammers aren't, if their methods aren't working, if they're not receiving any money, they're gonna stop doing it, right? The only reason why people keep on scamming, the only reason why you're seeing more and more scams come forward in this space, is because there's more and more new people not knowing what's a scam and what isn't. That's the issue. So if you can educate the people, so much so that they're not sending anything to the scammers will have no reason to spend their time trying to scam people, because they won't be getting anything out of it. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. And again, none of this includes any Monero or anything like that. In this case, I don't think it would matter, because I've never seen any scammer asking for Monero or any privacy coin, to be honest with you. So this has nothing to do with it. But with all that being said, I kind of just want to touch on the whole Chainalysis report. I thought that was very interesting. Some interesting stats about where we are as a space in terms of the darknet and all that stuff. I still don't think that the darknet is the only reason why crypto is used. I never thought that, and I hope people don't think that after this video. I'm kind of just shedding light on how much activity is going on there, and the fact that none of the charts that we showed today, none of those included privacy coins, right? So in a sense, privacy coins can be good and they can be bad, right? They allow people to pretty much abuse them in a sense where it's like they're able to facilitate those nefarious transactions. But at the same time, it's like they're almost needed for the general public, because we all know that our privacy and our rights are slowly getting eroded. And we need some sort of backup for it. We need some sort of like hedge, I guess. And Bitcoin right now is a perfect hedge for anything economic related. But to me, privacy coins is like a hedge against your rights to a certain extent. Which is, I never really thought about it that way, but I'd almost say it like that. But so let's talk about what I'm doing. So I was speaking with my homie Harshal the other day about this. We met up in the city and we were just talking about it. Were we in the city? I think I was on the phone with him. Maybe I was in the city. But what I'm doing essentially is looking for privacy coins. If you want, you can show me a bunch down below. I got a couple of people on Twitter who was showing me a bunch in there. But this is what I'm looking for in a privacy coin, and maybe y'all can help me out with this. Number one, distribution of mining, right? To me, a good privacy coin should have a good way to mine it, which means it should be easy to mine it and should be, I would say, ASIC resistant, so that there aren't these huge companies like for Bitcoin that are mining Bitcoin and only they can mine it. Like for me, like if I have to join a pool to mine a certain cryptocurrency, then it's probably not the most decentralized. Like for example, Monero has CPU mining. See that they have CPU mining, right? So pretty much anyone with a computer can mine it. As far as I'm concerned, I could be wrong on that, but that's what I saw how their mining works. Maybe coins with a proof of stake in them, implemented in a good way where it's not like the person with the most coins gets the biggest reward. You know what I'm saying? Like I would almost kind of look at it as like the way Ethereum is planning on doing it, where it's like you can only stake a base amount and you'll only get rewarded that same amount over time. I think that would make a lot more sense economically, and it would distribute the mining a lot easier, so more people could do it. Like the mining should be in a way that your average person can fire up a miner and just go ahead and start securing the network. Maybe not making money per se, but securing the network, right? We don't want these big companies taking over network security, because they can essentially control it in that case, right? So you want a small amount. No, you want a large amount of people, not totally dominating the entire hash rate, if that makes sense. But essentially, distribution of mining is what I'm looking for, and making it easy for regular people to mine it. Number two, how does it achieve privacy? Zcash obviously uses ZK snarks. Monero, I know, uses ring signatures, and they only use addresses. I think they use addresses only once, so every time you make a transfer to a Monero address, you technically have to use another one next time. And in this case too, like The reason why I say the form of privacy is important is because you may need a lot of users to have that form of privacy effective. That's the whole thing with Zcash, right? If everyone who was using Zcash was using that privacy enabled feature, then you wouldn't have the issue. To me, you probably wouldn't have the issue of Chainalysis able to tell you how much money is in each transaction and what what addresses are involved, right? So that's why, to me, I think that's one place where Zcash falls short. Listen, I might have to sell some of my Zcash and buy some XMR, maybe some Pirate Chain, some Grin. Grin was another one I'm looking into currently. They use Mimblewimble. I think I mentioned that earlier. That one looks really interesting. However, their marketing is, but maybe because they're actually being private, actually anonymous. But anyways, to me, that's my whole thing behind this thing. What do you guys think about all this stuff? I mean, to me, again, I think that these will be the most valuable cryptocurrencies in the future. Obviously, I'm a big holder in Ether and all those different other cryptos, but like, I don't know. I although these things are going to be powering like, like essentially like the world at some point, I think that these privacy cryptos will be so important because again, like, there's only the surveillance is only increasing throughout the world, right? The government is only getting their hands like tighter. They're only getting a tighter and tighter grip on everyone in society. So it's pretty much it's inevitable. You know what I'm saying? This shit is inevitable. And that's why I'm looking to get some. And then listen, I'm looking to diversify, bro. I'm not trying to just buy all the Monero, buy all the Zcash. I'm trying to diversify into different privacy coins, man. But with that being said, I'm gonna stop blabbing on here. Thank you guys for watching. If you thought it was a good video, comment down below. Let me know what you think. And again, pitch me some of your privacy coins, man. For real. I'll be talking to you in the comments, right? Peace.